If we have a tangible non-current asset at the year end, that should be audited by auditor. So then once you are focusing about the balance, we have to focus what are the concern areas, right? So then here we have mentioned some of them. Other than that, I have listed those things in the whiteboard, but I am going to repeat that in here. Right. Basically, if you have a kind of a non-current asset in the balance sheet, that balance may impact these things. First one, opening balance. Opening balance. Second, addition. Third one, disposal. Fourth one, depreciation, amortization. Fifth, valuation. Sixth, impairment. Impairment. 6, 7, final balance. 8, related disclosures. Those things should be checked as audited. These things should be evaluated and ensure that balance is correct. Opening balance. You have to extract correct opening balance. That should be audited. Audited by yourself or predecessor auditor, previous auditor. The audited balance. So then opening balance confirm. Addition and disposal. From addition, what we are going to do, you can select a sample and check whatever the addition, EP&E addition or land addition, no, that's my cases. And disposal, so for addition, what are the things we need to check? Addition approval and board approval, or whatever the, let's say, land addition, there should be a board approval, and then land deed and bank statement, cash payment. Those things should be checked. Disposal, again, that can check the disposal again, and those approval and residual value, those things can be checked. And then depreciation and amortization. Depreciation, how we are going to check that? Depreciation method, residual value, and then depreciation calculation. And once you are calculating the depreciation, what are the assets purchased during the period? So the land, are you going to depreciate? No. Land, we are not calculating depreciation because we don't have a useful lifespan. The land which are situated in like tea area, like we have kind of a tea erosion. So then we can depreciate that land, right? If land again, then useful lifespan now. So then you can do depreciation. The specific scenarios, right? And valuation, if you are using a kind of a fair value model, evaluation model, what you have to do is you have to check the valuation. So then, for check the valuation, we have to evaluate the valuer's independence and inputs used by the valuer, and then qualification of the valuer. reasonability of the valuation need to be tested. And impairment. Impairment means impairment කියල කරනවා. දැන් බලන්න normal කියන එක තේරුම් ගන්න. What do you mean by impairment? Impairment කියන්නේ මොනවද? Impairment කියන්නේ gain or loss? It's a gain. Loss. Sorry. Hello. Yes, yes. Hello.
Relevance.
Ellis. You mind? Asset taking water, thermal deficit, value එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. Simple නේ. එතන ඕනම asset එකක් තියෙනවා මාට. ඒක asset එකෙන් වට earn කරන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රම දෙකක්. ඒක මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? කොහොමද ක්‍රම දෙක? කියන්නේ කොහොමද ක්‍රම දෙක? ඒක කරලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. තව පාවිච්චි කරලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. Value in use or fair value less cost to sell. What land you have a land, right? What you can do? You can sell it out and you can earn something, right? Or else you can use that, you can rent out that, you can earn something. Right? Two ways. What a motorbike has here. What you are going to do? So then you can sell it out and earn a cash flow. Or you can use that and you can sell some items and you can earn something. So then we have two options. Value in use and fair value less cost to sell. So then whatever the higher value we can consider as the recoverable value. Both are recoverable value but most appropriate. Most appropriate අපිට කියන්න බෑ higher value කියලා. සමහර කියනවා value in use ඇත්තෙම නැහැ. fair value less cost to sell විතරයි. අපේ value එකක් දුන්නට බෑ ඒක practical වෙන්න. So the recoverable value means the real value we can earn from this asset. That's a meaning, right? So that you should compare that with the book value. If it is whatever the recoverable value should be more than the book value or it should be equal to the book value. Why? If we are keeping a high value without earning something, we need to reverse that. So that's the counting, right? You don't need to keep asset without any future economic benefit. So the whatever the asset in the balance sheet, that should be tallied with the future economic benefits. After discounting future economic benefit, that value should be reflected in the books. That value more less. That's why we have post model versus evaluation model. DPN post model එකට නම් කරන්න policy එක ඔයාලට ඒක tally කරන්න බෑ future economic benefit වල percent value. That's your policy. But your future economic benefit, if you are going less than them, if that future economic benefit reduce less than the book value, you have to do a impairment, right? So that's the value need to dispose in the books in mind. So then that's how you have to calculate the impairment. Right? And to calculate impairment, you may have different type of inputs, right, to audit, to evaluate. So then you are arriving to the final balance. You have to check final balance whether it's appearing in the books and then related disclosures. Related disclosures, you have to consider whatever the relevant standard. 16, 40, 41, and then 13, and then 36, then 37, 8, that's 8. Then I can segment. Okay, so the forest, then the forest is then. Okay, say mobile. Counting, estimate, policy change, estimate and errors. Right. So then if there's a policy change, estimate change or error should be accounted according to, let me say, policy change, estimate change. What is that? Policy change, estimate change. In the case, the cost the equipment terminate. Policy change is a very important. Policy change and estimate. Estimate. Estimate total change කරනවා. Estimate change වෙනවනම් we are going to adjust from today onwards. Right? Prospectively we are adjusting for futuristic treatment. From now onward, we are starting to adjust that. We are doing a kind of policy change. You have to restate your numbers. That prospectively, you have to adjust that. Right? Are you okay? So then that's relevant for this balance. We are moving from a deadline method to decline method, depreciation method, and change is what there. Policy change, no estimate change. Estimate change and policy change. Policy estimate. Yes, estimate. Once you are using deadline method to decline method, the change is that with the estimate. First depreciation method, residual value, useful lifetime, estimate. Right? But your revaluation model to cost model is a policy. They have to make this. We have to make sharp once you are doing that. So the once we are doing the depreciation, we have to use useful lifetime, right? Divide depreciable value. Depreciable value. So cost divided by cost of evaluation amount divided by residual value. Divided by useful lifetime. Useful lifetime it refers with the economic useful lifetime. Economic useful lifetime. Required until economic useful lifetime. But the useful lifetime is economic useful lifetime. That 2 or 1. I said economic useful lifetime and the useful lifetime. Useful lifetime and economic useful lifetime. For depreciation, what you have to use? You have asset, right? You have asset, maybe refrigerator, fridge, right? You are buying it. You are buying it for your company. The company, the expected usage of this asset, like 10 years, 10 years, right? So once this, at the point of selling this, manufacturer has given a lifetime, that is 20 years, that can be used for 20 years. That was given by the manufacturer. So the what's the definition for that? That is the useful time given by the manufacturer to use that particular asset for the asset production purpose. The core benefit of the asset can be taken throughout this 20 years for that purpose. So then, at the point of selling, manufacturer define economic useful lifetime. That is the useful lifetime. We can get the core benefit of this asset, this lifespan. That is the economic useful lifetime. That asset can be used for the core benefit purpose for this lifetime. That won't be changed. That won't be changed. Economic useful lifetime won't be changed. That was given by the manufacturer. But you are planning to use 10 years. Someone else, same fridge, someone else is planning to use 15 years. That's up to you to decide. That's up to you, your organization to decide. That's useful lifetime. Right? For depreciation purpose, what you are going to use to divide depreciable value? 20 or 10 or 15. 15 and 10 same. My question is 15 and 10 or 20? 20 or 10. 10 or 15. Anyone. Anything. Economic useful lifetime. Lifetime. Correct. Lifetime. Correct. Okay. Once your useful lifetime getting reduced, let's say 5 years, parallelly your residual value getting increase. Negative value, negative relationship. Why? Your expectation may be very less. Because of that, your residual value may be. After 5 years, the value you can dispose as asset may be high. You have to use that. So then, economic useful lifetime will be used to decide the leased asset. Case 17 clearly says about economic useful lifetime. It will replace as 16. Economic useful lifetime in QA. Clearly, you have to highlight that. So the purpose of this asset. So the manufacturer's defined purpose, the lifetime you can use. That's economic useful lifetime. Fridge එකක් ගන්න. අරගෙන කූල් කරලා පාවිච්චි කරනවා අවුරුදු 20ක්. ඊට පස්සේ දැන් මේක කූල් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේක දැන් රෙදි දාන්න යූස් කරනවා. තව අවුරුදු 20ක් වාට පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්. නේද? අපිට ඒක පර්පස් එක ඊට පස්සේ. ඒතකොට කූල් කරන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට එකක් විදිහට පාවිච්චි කරනවා. ඒතකොට roll together 40 years පාවිච්චි කරලා. මේකද economic useful lifetime කියන්නේ 20 තමයි economic useful lifetime කියන්නේ. That was given by the manufacturer to use that asset for the co-defined benefit. Right? That is useful, right? I hope that's clear. Right. Those things should be understand. So then they have to use once you are doing your calculations and verification in the related disclosures. Right. So then going back to the procedures. Then confirmation of ownership. It's another thing we need to consider. You need to verify. To recognize asset ownership that I must at the end of the morning. The data ownership again. I think they know that. Land එක ගත්ත land එක අයිති වෙන්න ඕනද? වාහනයක් ගත්ත වාහනේ වට ownership එක තියෙනවද? එයි. plus තියෙනවද? Control එක තියෙනවද? Only the control you won't have. What's the ownership? ඒක නම් වාපක්. asset එකක් ගත්තම deed එක පිටියම බලන්න. Evidence relating the ownership may be a strong evidence to ensure the control. That's why you are checking that. Evidence relating to the ownership, giving a strong evidence you have that control. Otherwise, you have to show other evidence. Let's say you are purchasing a vehicle, so then you don't have adequate money. Then you have two options: can directly purchase or you can go with a lease, right? So then what you are going to do is you are getting support from leasing company and you are getting the vehicle, right? Then at the end of the day, you don't have that ownership up until you are paying the last installment, right? So then what you have? You have kind of a lease right. Right? So then you have the vehicle, but then again you have a question whether I am controlling that. What? Leasing company is the controller. Why the controller? But leasing company කියන ගාමේ මේ ෂෙඩ් එකෙන් විතරක් ෆුවල් ගන්න. කියනවා. වාමේ ඩවුන් සවුත් පැත්තේ විතරක් යන්න. ඊටත් නෑ යන්න එපානේ. අංගු වැඩි පාරවල. කියලානේ. වා එළිය නම් දාන්න එපා. වාහන ඇතුළේම දාන්න ගේ ඇතුළේම. ඒක කියනද? So the control with you. So then control by you. So then you are recognizing that as an asset on your balance sheet. So the right of use that asset. You are having that right and you are controlling that asset. That's why you are recognizing that as an asset. Right. Okay. So those are the natures and surrounding of the non-current fixed assets. That's the environment. That's the nature of that balance. You have to study that first. But then study කරලා තියෙන්නේ. එන්න මේ වගේ දේවල් පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරමු. ඒක තමයි ඔයාලා study එක. තාම ඔය procedures කරන්න ගන්න. So then balance wise, you have done the risk assessment, inherent risk, and then the control risk. Right? So then now we are going to do audit procedures. Before we are going to do audit procedures, you are supposed to decide your audit approach. Audit approach. What do you mean by audit approach? The audit approach is decide that again. That's here. Can balance. That's the procedure. යාළුවන්ට ඇහෙන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට දැන් මම වෙලා කියලා දුන්නේ මම කියන එක ඇහෙන්නේ නැහැ ඒගොල්ලෝ කාටද. ඊළඟිලා උපාදලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක normal. ඒක කන්ටිනියස් දෙයක් ඇහෙනවා නම් එක වෙලාවකදී ස්කෝප් එකේ එළියට යනවා. concentration එකේ එළියට යනවා. what පුළුවන් මේ break කරන්න. break කරාම යාළුවෝ නැගිටිනවා. this is the one. අපි යාළුවා කතා කරනවා කියනවා. ඒක කරන්නේ මාරු හොඳයි. ඔයාටත් මම කියනවා යාළුවට වැරදුනා තමයි. හරි ගියාට වඩා වැරදුනොත් නැහැ නේද හොඳයි. ඔතන වැරදුනම තව යාළුවට තාමත් තියෙනවා. ඒ වැරදි උත්තරයක් දෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා කතා කරන්නේ. හරි ෂෝක් එතකොට. මොනවද? කතාව තවට දුන්නා. With approach. What do you mean by with approach? What are the approach? Yeah. Whether we are going to do substantive, full substantive, or whether you are going to do this combination. Whether we are going to do this combination. Some scenario we can do full substantive. Some scenario you can do EOC plus substantive. That is called audit approach. That will be decided by using the results of the CRA plus the cost effectiveness. Right? If we are having kind of a reliable control conclusion from the walkthrough, but still we can go for substantive based on the nature of the balance. If we are having very less number of transactions, very less complexity, we can straight away perform substantive procedures, very practicable and cost effective, then we can do the substantive approach. No issue. So then, this type of non-current assets, what's your suggestion? Mostly this consisted with fixed asset type of things. What is your suggestion? Whether we are going to do EOC plus substantive or whether we are going to do full substantive. Whether we are going to do full substantive or whether we are going to do substantive විතරද? දැන් ඔයාලට හිතන්න ඕනේ. දැන් ඒක මෙහෙම උත්තරයකුත් මට කමක් නැහැ. But I can't say that, sir. It depends on the nature of the business. Obviously, right? Let's say if it is a garment or manufacturing company, you have millions of machines and equipments, right? Daily you have machine purchases, breakdowns, and so then you have disposals, you have purchasing machines. Daily we have transactions. If it is so, can we audit by using full substantive approach? So then during the period addition may be millions of transactions. Okay? So then you can't do that. If it is so, we have to use EOC plus substantive approach. So you have a hotel, right? You have a hotel. So PP, that non-current assets, you have the hotel building only. So then for that, to hotel building, you don't want to do the EOC plus substantive procedure. Why? For Hamdam hotel building, hotel building එක තියෙනවා මොනවා paint එකක් කරයි නේ. So then there may be depreciation, right? That's it. During the period, very minimal transaction. You can use full substantive approach. So that's how we have to decide it. We can't say that for this, definitely you have to do this and that. Some of the instances you can say that very less transaction, still I want to take the controls. That's up to them to decide. That's okay. It's okay. So then again, the substantive procedures, whatever the evidence you are gathering, as a result of TOC. So that's the outcome you are getting, right? Only thing is, for substantive procedures focusing the number, the monetary value. Here we are focusing about control. So that's why you are telling. There's no any procedure approach that only TOC. Only TOC approach like that. TOC කරලා විතරක් අපිට නවතින්න බෑ. ඇයි? TOC focus කරේ operation එක විතරයි, control විතරයි. ඒක result එක කොහොමද අපි බලන්නේ? That's why we are having full substantive and then reliant control mean TOC plus substantive. We don't have fully TOC approach එක. දැන් ඔයාලා question කරවන්න ඒ fully TOC approach එක ගන්න තියෙනවා. ඒ fully TOC approach කරන්න තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔයාලා question කරන්න පුළුවන් නේද? fully substantive approach එකක් තියෙනවා නම් fully TOC approach එකකුත් තියෙනවා. ඇයි මේක කරන්නේ? So that is not our purpose. Right? Yeah, our focus is the numbers in the financial statement. Numbers in the financial statement can be tested in two different methods. So then whatever the transaction process, operation can be tested and we can get a convert and we can get the results. We can check the result. Straight away we can check the results in the transaction terminators. That's the whole understanding you should have, right? Okay. The approach එක clear කියලා හිතනවා. දැන් ඔඩිට් කරන්න පටන් ගත්තා. balance එක select කරගත්තා. nature එක ඉගෙන ගත්තා. different natures. accounting background එකත් ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවා, right? So now we are going to perform procedures. Physical observation. Yes, you can do physical observation. You can count it, right? Plus, you can do a reconciliation. Reconciliation. You can add reconciliation again. So, you have to do kind of a reconciliation between one, whatever the general ledger or PPE note or intangible asset note versus the physical count. What basically මොකක්ද තියෙන්නේ? Property, plant and equipment register එකක් තියෙනවා. PP register එක. ඒ register එක මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ? ඒකට tally වෙනවා PL එකට. ඒක reconcile කරගන්න ඕනේ මොකද? PL එකේ එකක් තියෙන්නේ. Register එකේ තව එකක් නම් තියෙන්නේ. That is wrong. What we have to do is we have to reconcile both. And then whatever the register, whatever the amounts in the register should be tallied with the physical verification, right? That's the basic concept. So some of the companies keeping their asset register in Excel format. Some of the companies they are using a kind of a system, right, for depreciation and everything. So the SAP system always supporting to depreciation as well. So once they are doing their capex expense, it will be capitalized, right? Right. And depreciation calculation, recomputation. Then what you are going to do according to the depreciation method. Once you are calculating depreciation, you have to consider asset purchase date, whether you have disposed during the period. So then, commonly done mistake percentage එකක් අරගෙන අවුරුද්දට percentage එක apply කරනවා. asset එක acquire කරලා තියෙන්නේ අවුරුද්දේ mid of the year now. Then we have to adjust that, right? You have to identify what are the new additions during the period. According to the dates, you have to do the depreciation. That's a basic calculation. Other than that, check source documents for additions. Additions are the source documents balance. That's the source documents balance. So then you can take the addition breakup and select the sample and see. So what you are going to check, that up to you to decide. That up to you to decide based on the transaction. How we are going to verify that, right? And then insurance coverage. Normally we have to check the insurance coverage for non-current assets. Basically, if it is a non-current asset, government should ensure the future economic benefit. So if there's a kind of a disaster or kind of a risk, we can mitigate through insurance coverage. Insurance coverage, right? Insurance coverage ensures our right and the benefit. So the consistency may be ensured through insurance coverage. Right? You can check that as well. Once you are checking this insurance coverage, what are things you need to check? Whether we have taken this insurance coverage for all assets, some insured amount, have we paid that? Is that expired? Right? All those things can be checked. Another thing is the coverage. Make a PNA hill countries tsunami එක තමයි cover කරලා තියෙන්නේ. තේරුම නැහැ නේ. country tsunami එක එහෙම තේරුම නැත්ලා යනවා. දැන් cover එක ගන්නකොට කොහොමද? The relevant risk to be addressed. So if you evaluate as auditor, ඒක වෙන්න පුළුවන් audit insight එක. Right? That should be evaluated, right? Other than that, borrowing cost capitalization. What do you mean by that? As auditor, we need to evaluate the borrowing cost capitalization. So I have not included here. That also should be included in between here. Borrowing cost. Borrowing cost. By that. In other words, borrowing cost. Borrowing cost the parliament. Borrowing cost. Borrowing interest. So that is the cost income for borrowings, interest. So then specifically that was done for what? Qualifying asset. What do you mean by qualifying asset? As per case 23, qualifying asset is an asset. It will take substantial period of time to complete it, produce it, product it, right? So then what do you mean by that? If we are building up a kind of a apartment, or so basically once you are doing that, the construction or production, it will take time. It may be a production item, it may be a building or kind of a property. So the inventory එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, වාගේ asset එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Inventory එකක් නම් it will take long time, more than 1 year you are taking to produce that inventory. Maybe kind of a vessel, maybe kind of a, let's say you are doing construction, right? Construction in the sense you are developing buildings and selling out. So then developing building means your production is buildings, right? So your outcome, finished goods, work in progress. We have work in progress, right? We have work in progress more than 1 year. So you can capitalize it in mind. So whatever the borrowing cost, you can capitalize. So if you have borrowing cost, what you have to do is you need to identify whether it's a qualifying asset and interest rate, and then borrowing cost. All things should be identified and capitalized. And there's a deferred tax obligation as well, right? And other than that, so then we have borrowing cost. We need to decide the borrowing cost rate. So then specifically that borrowing facility should be taken for that purpose. If we have kind of a common borrowing facility, they are using some part, we need to identify separately that. So that should be done. That will be done by the management. As auditor, you have to evaluate and you have to capitalize it. Keep in mind. So then that's part of your cost. Okay. So then disclosure requirement. So what are the disclosure requirements? We have many, right? Disclosure requirement. These specific standards request many disclosures. Other than that, some other related disclosures or standard also requesting require many disclosures. What are they? Let's say fair value. Syllabus 30 requires many disclosures. So then under here we are discussing about the valuation method. Whether it's cost or fair value or those things, right? If we are doing fair valuation, we have to use what? Syllabus 30. Under syllabus 30, we can do fair valuation by using different method. Market value, cost method, and revenue method. Different methods are there. Once you are using different methods, you are using inputs. Inputs can be divided into two classes. What are they? Observable inputs and non-observable inputs. Observable inputs and non-observable inputs. Accordingly, the combination of observable and unobservable inputs may lead to classify your fair valuation level. That is level 1, level 2, or level 3 valuation. Right? So if you are using 100% unobservable inputs, it's a level 3 valuation. If it is so, your requirement of disclosure may be too high. They are using level 1 market value. Say active market price, your requirement, disclosure requirement may be very less, right? So the observable inputs, the sensitivity of observable input is the required disclosure. What do you mean by sensitivity? Sensitivity can observable input take a 1% value, 1% add-on, 10% value, 10% add-on. What is the impact to the PN? You have to disclose that in the financial statement. Anyway, they don't. For product, then the unobservable inputs are there. Is that relevant? Yes. Because you have a balance in the balance sheet which is derived through unobservable inputs. Stakeholder input market taking observe current inputs are in the main headline. If we want to pass again, no. You use the input taker. Here the higher particular profit taker, picture impact taker. Here the sensitivity taker that disclose. As auditor, you have to audit that as well. Keep in mind. So then disclosure requirements need to be tested, right? So those are the requirements. In between these things, you can customize your audit procedures. These are the basic audit procedures for non-current assets. So then you can go in. Then study this 16, 40, 41. We have different treatments, right? So then how we are going to classify investment property? If you want to classify investment property to PP&E as accounting treatment. Last week we discussed, right? Some of them. So then different between other comprehensive income and the comprehensive income statement. If you are using revaluation for this IP, evaluation can be taken to the P&L, right? Not the other comprehensive income. We are doing this revaluation for PP&E that should be taken to other comprehensive income statement. Those things should be discussed and you have to go through this. You have to go through and you have to understand. 41. Last week we discussed, right? Abagaha ඉතින් හතර වෙනස. කතා කරන්නේ අම්ම ගහයි ටික 10 තමයි. ඔය එක ගහක් අම්බ හැදෙන එකත් ලැබෙනවා කියලා කිව්වේ නේද? 10 Ambagaha, for the standard again. Ambagaha 16, case 16, Selgaha, case 41. Bearer plant and a consumable plant. Bearer plant, if there's a plant, we are expecting harvest more than 1 year. If we can regenerate items, harvest we can use for harvesting for more than 1 year. It's a bearer plant that should be treated from LK 16. Right? Treat this tea plant under LK 16. Mature tea plant, right? Mango plant, jack tree, or yes, grapes, whatever this long-term purpose biological asset, you can treat biological asset means living animal and plant. Only plant, right? Living animal, they are all consumable. Case 41, right? Agricultural produce, then again, case 41 in mind. So that's the background. Accordingly, you can do your solution. I hope we have covered all those aspects. If you have a question relating to this type of area, what you have to do is you have to design your audit approach and identify related risk areas, whether it's appearing to each accession. Case study එකේ මොනවද කියලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක impact වෙන්නේ existence වලට. ඒක impact වෙන්නේ valuation. You have to consider that aspect. But you know, total machinery count එකේ machine 3ක් විතර නැහැ. So then there is a deficit in the machinery verification. So then that's address the existence. Existence understand our balance valuation එක නෙමෙයි. Control තියෙනවා කියන organization එකේ asset ආරක්ෂා කරනවා. දැන් building එක නම් ගලවගෙන යන්නේ නැහැ. building එක තියෙනවා. Yes. And we go back to the TOC. So at that point, you don't want to, change your audit approach, right? If you started to do full substantive approach, you can expand your sample size. Right? So that if you are doing hybrid approach, already completed TOC, then TOC says there's no any control deficiency. So the you selected number of days, and every day these security people are there, CCTV are there, right? So we ensure that TOC are there. With this understanding, we started this physical verification. Once you are selecting this doing physical verification, we understood that some of the machinery item missing. So that means there's an issue. Then again, we don't need to go and see TOC because it was confirmed that TOC is okay. So then what you have to do? You have to expand your sample and you have to verify further and ensure the balance. Okay. Then again, there's a concern whether once you are doing your verification and selecting your sample for your TOC, is that adequately you did? So then, if you have done some mistake in your sampling, you need to revisit your sampling. No need to do that. So then your sampling should be revisited not only for PP and E, other assets as well. That can be happen to other areas as well. Right? Expand your sample sizes of what? Substantive proceeds and perform it. So that's clear. Sample there in complexities. That's not the happened to one. Voilà, Look lazy. Hotel building. I should learn depreciation. How am I going to do that? Depreciation for hotel building. From the current. And different way. How much is that in again 16? You have to do component depreciation. Component depreciation. I think they were like the component marketing to identify and depreciate. Useful diagram should be identified with the component. You have to depreciate the root separately and the structure and the elevator or then AC machine or then this fitting and then washrooms and bathroom fittings and then the color code like paint cost should be depreciated separately. But they can get so then you have a hotel building, total cost incurred 550 million. 550 million, right? So then now hotel building completed more than, let's say, 150 rooms have incurred a cost. So from here, like 20 million for the paint. To the paint. Hotel building එක full paint කරන්න 20 million costing. එතකොට ආගේ hotel building එකේ useful lifetime එක 40 years. Normal building useful lifetime we are using 40 years, 45 years, 40 years. Once you are calculating depreciation for this building, if you are dividing 150 by 40, you have answer. Is that correct? No, right? Because this 550 included 20 million for painting. This painting 20 million will be fully depreciated within another 5 years, 8 years. And we have to identify it separately. Why? Normal of hotel, they are changing their color. That paint once in the 5 years or 6, 7 years time. If it is so, cutting the paint again, then we are not treating that. We are not keeping that, right? So then we have to do what we have to do. We have to recognize that as a separate component. Right? So then that is a part we need to focus as component depreciation. Okay, a pool lega hotel lega. Pool lega හදනකොට pool can be used for 40 years, right? So then how about the tile cost you are using for the pool? You have to separately recognize, right? Normally, after having like 20 years, you have to renovate it. You have to remove that tile that you have to redo kind of a renovation and you have to attach tile again. Right? So that's what you have to do. So the second tile cost can be capitalized. කරන්න වෙනවා කියන්නේ දාන්න. පළවෙනි ටයිල් කොස්ට් එක මොකද කරන්නේ කොහොමද කවුන්ට් කරන්නේ මට මම ඔඩිට් කරනකොට වෙච්ච චැලෙන්ජ් එක පූල් එක හදලා ඉස්සම කවුන්ටිං මොනවද එක්ස්පෙන්සස් මුකුත් කරලා නැහැ allocate කරලා pool cost එක 40 years වලින් කරගෙන යන්න තියෙනවා. හරි. depreciate කරගෙන යන දැන් අවුරුදු 20ක් විතර set කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ? තියෙන ටයිල් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ගලවලා අලුතෙන් ටයිල් දාන්න. එතකොට එයාලා අහනවා දැන් මේ ටයිල් පිටින්ම ප්‍රෙපෙයාර් එකක් වගේ නේ. දැන් ටයිල් අලුතෙන් එනකොට වැටුණු කිසිම පණින්න ගොඩක් පුළුවන්. දැන් ඒ ගානම තමයි. කලර් එක වෙනස්. අර යා හොඳ මේ එකක් එනවා නුක් එක. හැබැයි ඒක නිකන් ප්‍රෙපෙයාර් එකක් වගේ නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ අර වැඩි වීමක් වෙන්නේ නෑ වගේ. මාර ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේ. කොහොමද ඒක කවුන්ට් කරන්නේ? ඒ දාන කොස්ට් එක කෙලිම කියන දාන්න වෙනවද? රිපෙයාර් කොස්ට් කියලා. ඒ කොස්ට් එක කෙලිම කැපිටලයිස් කරන්න පුළුවන්. What are you going to do? The capitalized expense. You have to capitalize it. Why? Because of that renovation, we can, so the economic benefit will be come to the company another 20 years. We can't talk it to the P&L this year, this one. But then what we have to do? So the whatever the tile cost was incurred will be fully depreciated now. Right? So then that was removed as a depreciation. If you have separately identified. And then this cost can be capitalized. Right? Oh, making me. මුදල් පණින්න පුළුවන් ගන්න වැඩි වුණ නැති වුණාට කටියට කැමති වෙනවා. කටිය දැන් අලුත් pool එක රිනෝවේට් කරලා දැන් වැඩිපුර කට්ටිය එනවා. නේද? මේ කලර් එක වෙනස් වුණා. That's good. So then it's increasing the the revenue. That's the nature. So then what you have to do? Once you are having this type of this significant large assets, you have to have kind of a component depreciation. So then that's same to a kind of a machine. In a machine, we have different parts, right? So the different parts should be identified differently. Some of the parts we have to replace after half of the economic useful lifetime of that asset. So මොකද කරන්නේ? ඒ half එක separately identify කරගෙන depreciate කරන්න. It is material, right? Otherwise, no need to do that. It's otherwise a repair cost. So then those are the tricky things we need to focus in. I hope that's clear. So then, whatever the area I'm giving as a case study, you have to have kind of understanding, and you can, the design procedures, identify this, and present a good solution as auditor. So that's the requirement. So I'm done with non-current fixed assets, right? I'm moving to intangible assets. Intangible assets. Tangible assets. There are standards for this. First time comfortable with this class. audit කරන්නත් දන්නවා. දැන් experience I can tell. ඒ වුණාට දැන් මෙහෙම කියාගෙන යනකොට තේරම දන්නේ නැහැ. සමහර ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් සමහර areas මතක නැති වෙනවා. experience නැති වෙනවා නේද? then අපිට financial instruments futures taking product experience there hands-on experience there. So then if we are having kind of a practical serious case study takla උදබලාගෙන ඉන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. That's a nature, right? then ඒක වාට ඒක කරන්න experience කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි continuously ඒකට in the learning process to improve yourself. So that good to have that sense and the knowledge. Right, we have a case 38, intangible assets. Basically, for these assets, we don't have physical substance, right? That's obvious. And we can't see it, we can't touch it. So then we can't count at least, right? Physical verification of intangible asset is a miracle. So I think we don't have that kind of procedure. What can be physical verification of and make it a recommendation at the bank. So live gamma full wow කියලා තමයි මේක ලියලා තියෙනවා. වාරක් කියනද I give kind of simple question, right? I have given kind of case study and I requested to identify the particular audit team members, right? So then what are the key persons in the audit team? So the first is the board of directors. Whole equation fail, right? Actual thing is they have visited the custodian and the intendant, sorry, so the responsible party is the practitioner. So then I am asking who is the practitioner, he's telling the board of directors. So paper බලන්නේ වෙන ටිකක් නවත් කරලා අපි ඇයිකින් විතර පටන් ගන්නවා. ඒකට ස්ට්‍රෙස් එක කරන්න එපා. Then you have to think and you have to write it properly. Yes. So then intangible assets, the difficult part, right? Because it's not visible, not touchable. So then how we can verify that? How we can ensure that? That's very difficult. Some of the areas we have to have kind of estimates, right? Impairment. So then pay the net. Intangible assets here. Oh, goodwill and I paid the net. With the tangible asset, intangible asset may be difficult, right, to verify. Yes, as auditor is very difficult. But in the case of intangible asset, normally we don't have much. We can directly suggest that we can better use in the full substantial approach. No need for POC approach. I have given that POC and full substantive, but suggestion is you can go with full substantive approach. Why? During the period, we don't have much transaction. We may have 1 or 2 transactions related to intangible assets. We have types of intangible assets like PPND, so in non-current assets we had many types, right? Biological asset, IP, PPND, likewise. Here also we have many different types of intangible assets. What are they? Goodwill, development cost, trademarks, software. So those are intangible assets. Then once you are going through the intangible asset standard, it clearly says that I'm asking this way. Trademarks. Trademarks is intangible asset. So all the trademarks can be capitalized in the books. Are we having these trademarks in the books as intangible asset in our organization? So example of trademarks like logos, trademark can be the kind of name and symbol trademark. So then in their balance sheet, are they valuing the balance sheet? Example, Apple, whatever the trademark, with the label, that campus, different logos, right? So then once you're going through their balance sheet, are they valuing the trademark? Can you recognize that as intangible asset? එයාගේ asset එකේ value එකක් තියෙනවද? For that asset, you don't have a value. Why? 38 standard clearly says you can't recognize what? You can't recognize internally generated goodwill. That's very important. So the trademark is if you have self-developed that brand or trademark, so then it's an internally generated goodwill. Sorry, internally generated trademark. You don't need to capitalize it. Right? Then if you are purchasing some trademark, that can be identified as an intangible asset. Let's say one company purchasing some brand, right? So Softlogic purchase Embark, right? Brand from Otara. So then whatever the price they have given to that brand can be capitalized as trademark. Right? So at the point of acquisition, you can capitalize. So then that's an example. We don't have here the customer list. One company customer list එක capitalize කරගන්න ඕනේ. නෑනේ. කරගන්න බෑ. හැබැයි it's a kind of the asset to the organization. Asset means, so because of this customer list, we have kind of a future economic benefits, obviously, right? So then because of these customers, we have kind of a invisible the earning power. Because of this customer list, so then are we going to capitalize into the books? No, it's internally generated. But if you are purchasing this type of a customer list from outside organization, what you are going to do? You have to recognize that as an intangible asset. අපි කියනවා හරි. අපි හොටෙල් එකක් කරනවා. අර order set එකක් තියෙනවා. customers ලා 50ක් විතර orders තියෙනවා. වර්තාව expand කරගන්න ඕන. තව හොටෙල් එකක් එක්ක discuss කරලා එයාගේ customer portfolio එකේ 50 customers මට දෙන්න මම supply කරන්න 50 customers වලට payment එකක් කරලා ගන්න. දැන් මම 100 customers වලට serve කරනවා. So then whatever the cost income for that 50 customers, you can capitalize that as an intangible asset. So that's a payment you have done for the customer list. The intangible asset, customer list එක පේනවා. list එක මෙතන ලියුවොත් නැත්නම් අර it's not a tangible asset, right? So that's the thing I want to highlight, right? And then development cost. Development cost. Research and development. Development utilize. Research cost is expense to the P&L. Expenditure. So the research and development. The one topic, right? Some of the organizations we have one department, R&D department. So the R&D department, all costs can be capitalized. Can't. Research. If we do research, we don't have kind of a firm understanding that whether it's creating future benefit or not. After doing a research, if you have come up with a kind of a conclusion or kind of a exact future benefit, it means the technical feasibility is confirmed. So then we can onwards, right? So then whatever the cost we are going to incur, you can capitalize, right? Article case 38, section 57 says 6 criteria to ensure to capitalize the intangible asset in your books. Intangible asset as a development cost. So that should be technically feasible. That should be intent to continue this asset. So then that should be value reliable. Those type of 6 criteria are there. You can go through that. So I sent it to the group, right? Section 57. So what are the 6 criteria? Keep in mind that all 6 criteria should be achieved, not only one. So then read that first sentence. So then each and every the item should be achieved, right? That's important, right? That's about research and development. And then those are counting, not about auditing, right? So then how we are going to evaluate this type of decision? We are going to evaluate technical feasibility. We need to get a technical feasibility result or engineer report or something like that. I have a certificate or board approval, and then that should be feasible. Some of the projects technically feasible. There's no cost allocation. That should be very practical to the organization. According to the available resources, දැන් අපිට තියෙනවා යක් නවල ඔයිල් තියනවා කියන. අපිට කැපිටලයිස් කරගන්න පුළුවන්ද? දැන් අපිට ගන්න බැරි නම් අපිට ප්‍රැක්ටිකලි බජට් උත් නැත්නම් ටෙක්නොලොජි එකක් නැත්නම් can we develop cost? Then that's the part. You need to evaluate that. So the evaluating that type of a treatment really difficult as auditor, right? So the qualitative aspects are there. මට කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේවත් තමයි evidence එකට ගන්න ඕනේ කියලා. You have to decide what are the evidence we need to gather to ensure what research cost to the development cost, right? We need to ensure that. So that may be board decision, board approval, or whatever the cost allocation. Then the project plan. අපිට තියෙන්න පුළුවන් development project එකේ ඉවර කරන්න fixed plan එකක් time frame එකක්. So that will be a strong evidence that should be approved by the board. It is kind of a commitment, right? So then futuristic, the cash flow forecast should be there. So then that can be used for your audit purpose as audit evidence. Right, cool. So then goodwill. Please. Can you recognize that in the books? Goodwill. One. Goodwill. Recognize the one. Goodwill books are recognized the one. The very the common. Can buy. Can you recognize the goodwill? Cannot. The very good.
Business acquisition එකේ නේ goodwill එක capitalize කරන්න පුළුවන් sir. Internal generated goodwill එක තමයි capitalize කරන්න බැරි.
I need to keep myself. At acquisition, you can recognize it. So as a standalone company, internal generated goodwill can't be capitalized. Why we are recognizing the goodwill at the acquisition point? But this, I think we recognize the recognize the more than assets, yes. So then, in one time we are recognizing it, and the acquisition we are recognizing. So standalone company we are not recognizing. The acquisition we are recognizing. Why we are recognizing as acquisition? We need to understand what it is. Because it's like a not compare, you have correctly said. We are not recognizing internally generated goodwill. That's the reason you are recognizing at the acquisition as a goodwill. If you have already recognized it, don't need to recognize. According to the standard, we can't recognize internally generated goodwill. Because of that, in our book value, net asset value doesn't show our goodwill or trademark or internally generated whatever the goodwill, whatever the intangible asset, right? So then you are supposed to sell this business. Once you are selling this business, your net asset value, let's say 10 million. Your net asset value 10 million. Right? So then you have a purchase consideration of 15 million. Purchase consideration of 15 million. So then they can see this 10 million, but they are paying 15 million. Why they are paying this much? For the unrecognized goodwill they have, unrecognized trademark, unrecognized internally generated goodwill. There's a kind of a earning power, kind of a customer base to evaluate. That is not in our books. For that they are paying another 5 million. That is called goodwill. ඇයි දැන් මේක recognize කරන්නේ? ඒක දැනුත් අත්දැකලා දාන්න පුළුවන්. ප්‍රශ්නේ අපිට debit entry දාගන්න තරම් නැතුනේ නේද? credit entry එක දානවා. පාඩුද? cash එක. අදලද consideration credit debit කරන්න පුළුවන්. PL එක debit කරන්න පුළුවන්. පුළුවන් ෂෝක්නේ. එහෙම කරලත් බෑ. After acquisition, because of this power, we are earning forever, not forever, for long period. It means we have to capitalize it. If we need to keep that in another asset account. That is called acquisition from the intangible asset from the acquisition. Right? තේරෙනවද කියනනේ? ඇයි හැම වෙලේම ඇයි කියලා අහන්න. why හතක් පස්ස ගහලා බලන්න ඇයි එහෙම කරන්නේ? As per the standard කියන එක නෙවෙයි වගේ රෝල් එක. accountant එක. වගේ රෝල් එක මොකක්ද? එහෙම කරන්නේ ඇයි කියලා අහුවම උත්තර දෙන්නේ. ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එකේ මෙහෙම දෙයක් කියලා කියනවා ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒකට සෙකන්ඩ් කියලා දාගත්තම මේ ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එකේ සර්ච් කරලා කියයි. වා කියන්නේ ඇයි එහෙම කරන්නේ? Right. Okay. So then that goodwill can be calculated in two different methods. That maybe full goodwill or proportionate goodwill. Full goodwill or proportionate goodwill. Goodwill again. Part එකක් විතරද goodwill එක. ඔයා කිව්වොත් එහෙමයි. ඒක තමයි. ඒක දෙන්නේ. ඒක මිනිස් එකක් goodwill එක කරන්නේ. ඒක තමයි ඒ කොහොමද එන්නේ දෙන්නේ යාළුවනේ උන්ට ඇසෙට්ස් කියලා. කිමු කිව්වොත් යාළුවන්ට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. කිමු කිව්වොත් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි කියන්නේ ඇයි කරන්නේ? ඒක තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. කොන්සෝල් කියන්නේ අමාරුයි. Consolidation is a big complex process. Also, calculation is doing these adjustments, income kind adjustment, fuel calculations. Those are big complex. And auditing in consolidated financial maybe auditing. So you have to be expert on accounting treatments to do audit. So then you have to decide. You should know the treatment, you should know the evidence, you should know the evidence gathering process. Otherwise, how you are going to do audit in consolidation? Then you have to work on that. Is once you are doing consolidation, goodwill is a part of that. Consolidation. The accounting for acquisition for subsidiary. So then at which point you are going to calculate goodwill? At which point you are going to calculate goodwill? At the point of acquisition of what? The control. So then at the point of acquiring the control, you have to calculate the goodwill. Right? So then your acquisition may be happen different stages. Correct? But console ගන්න එන්න පුළුවන්. ඉදි ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. දැන් console අමාරු කියලා උඩ දාගෙන ඉන්න එපා. console ඊළඟ semester එකේ ඉඳලා final year first semester corporate reporting consolidation is the for that 50%. Consolidation. So then, consolidation is buying the consolidation questions can be given different scenarios. Basic aspect is you have to calculate the goodwill, right? So then that goodwill can be calculated based on the control acquisition date. That acquisition can be happen at the end of the period. End of the period. 31st December. The mid of the period. 30th June. The first date of the period. January 1st. Wow. Metala දුන්නාම කද වෙන්නේ ඉනාන acquisition එක year end එකේ වුණාම ඉනාන ඒක දේසි acquisition එක නැද වුණාම හොඳට පාඩනවා exam එක කරලා ඉඳලා එනවා ඒලා acquisition එක අවුරුද්දේ මුල වුණාම වාට දුකක් නැහැ සතුටක් නැහැ මොඩරේට් ගන්න හදනවා වාට acquisition එක අවුරුද්දෙනු කලින් ගිය අවුරුද්දේ මුල ඒ කියන්නේ එකයි එක නෙමෙයි let's say 2023 2022 January 1st එහෙම වුණාම ඔයා අඬන ගමන් ගන්න හදනවා හැබැයි කඳුළු වෙන්නේ නැහැ සාමාන්‍ය එක්සෑම් එකේ දෙන්නේ කොහොමද අඬන ගමන් ගන්න හදනවා අඬන ගමන් හදාගෙන යනවා ඒ වගේ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඇයි ඒ? තව එක්සැමිනර් ටෙස්ට් කරන්න ඒරියාස් තියෙනවානේ. ඒක මොරියෙන් නෑ එක්සැමිනර්. So the examiner can give මෙච්චර මෝඩක් නෑ එක්සැමිනර්. එක්සෑම් එකේ දේවල් අතුරු කරලම තියන්න ඕන කියලා. This too will be tested in exam. Your acquisition can be happen first date of the period or little bit away from the first date or 6 months or 1 year. So then, if you have this type of question, as at this date, you are acquiring the control, maybe 80% or more than 50% control. So then, at the point of acquisition of the control, you have to calculate what? The goodwill. So then, here you have to calculate, as at this date, what is the net assets of the company? Net asset of the company and the consideration. That's it. Net asset of the company. What is that? Equity plus stated capital. Retained earning plus this reserves plus capital. So then share capital may be fixed. So then what again? Dila තියෙන්නේ මෙතන balance sheet එක. මෙතන balance sheet එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒකේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ stated capital theorem. So now we have to backward to calculate the but post acquisition reserve and pre-acquisition reserve. So stated capital in the books plus pre-acquisition reserve is a net asset as at the acquisition date. That should be compared with the consideration. That should be compared with the consideration. So to do this calculation, we are preparing an account called cost of control account. Cost of control account to calculate the acquisition of the control. We are comparing the cost and the control value. Right? We do this calculation, and here what the element we are going to stated capital of the acquiring company. Stated capital like 10 million, right? Your pre-acquisition reserve, like 2 million. Altogether 12 million. So your consideration consideration 15 million. NCI fair value 5 million. Altogether 20 million. 20 million. Simple, right? So this is the asset you are purchasing. This is the consideration you are giving. We are calculating what? What is that? This full goodwill. Full goodwill. What do you mean by full goodwill? Are we going to showing the full goodwill in the balance sheet? That's the best way. Full goodwill. Full asset में दान नोट कर balance sheet में. हम अभी console करना. A acquire B 80%. A acquire B 80%. A is supposed to prepare consolidated financial statement. Once he is preparing consolidated financial statement, A consider that as parent, B consider that as subsidiary. They do the financials, right? Once they are doing financials, let's say we have cash. We have cash, right? A company having cash 10,000. B company having cash 5,000 in the consolidated accounts, console account. What's the balance? 15,000 or 14,000. What is the asset balance we have to disclose? Hello. So 'Right. So what's the value we are going to disclose in the console financial statement? This value or this value? 15,000 or 14,000? 15,000 or 14,000? 15,000. So අපි අපිට අයිති නැති portion එකේ asset value ගන්න බැහැ. අපිට අයිති ටික කරලා. අපිට අයිති 80%. දෙවෙනි විදිහට කැලකලා තියෙන්නේ අපිට cash තියෙන 10,000 ඒට B තියෙන 5,000. ඊගෙන් ඒකේ අයිති ඒක අරගෙන 4,000 add කරලා 14 send කරනවා. So that's the 14. 15. ඒක තමයි කරන්නේ. හරි. ඒක එතකොට අපිට අයිති නැති ටික පෙන්නන්න මේ. කොහොමද 15 පෙන්නන්නේ? ඉස්සක් අපිට අයිති නැහැ මේක. මේ balance sheet එකේ පෙන්නනවා. Yes. Though we have this 80% ownership, we have the 100% control. Because of that, we are disclosing 15,000 here, right? And then for all the assets, we are keeping 100% in the books. So then how about the goodwill? So the goodwill also is better to show full goodwill, not the goodwill pertaining to the parent. So then what we have to do? We have to calculate the goodwill for both parties, to parent and the NCI. That is called full goodwill. We are calculating the goodwill for both parties. So then we have this much of goodwill, but it was controlled by the parent. That's why we are showing in the sheet. So then, this is our consideration. We are paying this much. And NCI paying, NCI value, book value may be less than that. NCI fair value. NCI portion can be selling out to the outside. How much? This much. This is the total consideration for the organization, right? And company having this much of net asset. This is the full goodwill relevant for parent and the NCI. Because of that, that is called full goodwill, right? That should disclose in the statement of financial position, consolidated statement of financial position. This calculation and related evidence should be audited by the auditor. So then, I hope you are comfortable with this account treatments and aspects, and I can discuss these things furthermore, but I can't cover all the consolidation, right? It's out of topic. But I am giving maximum related knowledge around that to should have understanding how we can perform audit procedures, what are the steps we need to perform to gather audit evidence. Right. Then I hope that you are comfortable with this. So, what are doing substantive procedures? Basically, what are the evidence you need to gather? You can have kind of an inquiry with the management, right? And gathering board minutes, reading board minutes, and then cash payments, payment approval, and then this technical approval for development cost. So then those are the related evidence. Once you are having kind of a case study, you need to decide what are the substantive procedures you are supposed to do and what are the evidence you need to gather as an auditor. That depends on the scenario. So what we can do is we can suggest a kind of full substantive approach plus relevant audit procedures. But matter is, it may be combined with the kind of estimate, right? Fair valuation estimate, fair valuation of goodwill. So whatever the generated goodwill at the acquisition, we have to revisit for the impairment, right? Impairment test of the goodwill should be evaluated. So the amortization of this intangible asset should be evaluated. So then those things need to be considered once you are dealing with intangible assets. So the intangible asset valuation is the risky asset valuation, right? Existence, obviously, we can't see. Existence can be verified through documents and the appearance of the company, right? Appearance in the sense indicators of the company. But whatever the valuation should be ensured through audit procedure. That's a risky area, right? We are moving forward. So then we have already covered non-current assets. We want to cover investments. That's another part. Investments. It's a financial instrument. Financial instrument. Financial instrument. Financial instrument can be divided into two. Maybe financial asset, financial and financial asset. Financial asset may be but maybe a equity item, debt item, or derivative. Financial asset එක මේ item තුනෙන් තමයි හැදෙලා තියෙනවා. Financial asset එක කොහේ invest කරන්න ගියොත් you can see this. So what are the examples of financial asset? Stock and debentures, treasury bill, treasury bond, FD, savings, whatever the financial asset, you can categorize to equity, debt, or derivative. Are you okay? And then financial liability also classified. According to this financial asset means this right to receive cash. There's a right to receive cash. If we can determine the futuristic cash inflows exactly, so then we can say that your cash flow characteristic test will be passed. So then once you are doing your classification, firstly you have to do first test. What is that? Cash flow characteristics test. Cash flow characteristics test, right? So then if you are getting fast result for cash flow characteristic test, so then you have to do the second test. What is that? Is that this model test, right? Business model test. Business model test. We have performed business model test only for what? Whatever the item, we are getting fast result. Fast result means according to the cash flow characteristic test, if we can determine the futuristic cash flows, then only we are doing the business model test. Right? So then equity, after investing equity, can you decide futuristic cash flows? The fact of cash flows? No, can't. So equity directly paid. Derivative directly paid. We don't need to do business model test. Only for debt. Only for debt. We are doing business model test. According to the business model test, you can decide whether it's amortized, the financial asset measured at amortized cost, financial asset measured at transfer P&L or OCI. Right? So that's about summary of financial asset. We can in detail discuss about derivative. So what do you mean by derivative? For example, for derivative can make an example another example, shares or preference share. If this name, FD savings, especially bond debentures, commercial papers. Yes. Take an example here. Futures, options, forward contracts, different instruments. Then again, these also can't be measured the actual cash flows. By this, whatever the derivative, the value will be determined on dependent on some other variable. So that is called. So then we are having a derivative with two different items. The invested value depend on some kind of other event, other item, right? If it is a hedge, we have the hedge item and the hedge instrument. Hedge instrument and the hedge item. We need to have a hedge effectiveness. Syllabus 9 clearly says about hedge effectiveness. We have to have three criteria, right? syllabus 9 discussion So learn plan. Right? So then I expect you learning on these areas. So then we can do auditing in investments. Right? Once you are doing auditing in investments, you have to focus about whether you are going to do full substantial approach or the direct control approach. If it is a company having 2 or 3 investments, Don't do POC approach. Do substantive approach because it's very straightforward. If you are doing kind of a investment related kind of a custodian company or something like that, so then you are managing investment portfolio, please do POC, right? So then here what we can do is you need to take the approval and the investment related confirmation plus calculate the income. That's it. The existence of the investment is the key. You have to call confirmation for that. Not from the custodian, that from the ultimate issuance party. If you have treasury bill and bond, what you have to get? You have to get central bank confirmation, not the intermediary party confirmation. There's entrust case එකක් ආව නේද? මතක ගන්නවද? So they tell they get treasury bill bond issue කරාම යාලා wholesale market එකේ brokers ලා ගන්නවනේ. brokers ලා අරගෙන මොකද කරන්නේ? retail market එකේ විකුණනවා. retail market එකේ විකුණනකොට කරන්නේ අපි සල්ලි දෙනවා යන්න sign කරනවා. මොකද ඒ trust කරලා තිබුණේ wholesale market එකෙන් ගන්නව government එකේ එකම bond එක 5 දිනකට විතර විකුණනවා. විකුණලා සල්ලි ගන්නවා. හැබැයි assign කරන්න එක්කෙනාට. අර දෙන්නටම එක නෑ. බොරුවට සල්ලි අරගෙන. assign කරා කියලා කියනවා. දාන්න නැහැ. වාට කියනවා කියලා කියනවා. හැබැයි confirmation call කරනකොට එයා confirmation එක යවනවා මේ එක වාට තියෙනවා කියලා. එයා බලන්නේ නැහැ confirmation නේද. එතකොට අපි බලනවා central bank එකේ assign කරලා තියෙන කාට. So that once you are calling that confirmation, if there's no that assigned investment, that's a serious issue. That was a serious concern, like 4-5 years back. So then you have to be very careful once you are ensuring investment existence. Keep in mind. So we have not discussed here, we have not assigned for that. So then we have done with intangible asset, we are moving to another asset. That's current asset. What is that? Inventory, right? Inventory. Inventory is a different asset. That is not common for all the entities. Right? Basically, it's not significant for all the entities. Majority of the entities, companies, they do have inventory, right? They have a significant inventory balance in the balance sheet. But some of the companies, they don't have that significant balance in their balance sheet. What are the types of companies? Again, a significant inventory balance sheet of nothing companies. Some bank, like insurance companies, leasing companies, they don't have material inventory balance. Material in the size, right? They may have leaflet and gifts and those people. Other than that, they don't have like power energy company. So they don't have significant inventory balance, right? So whatever the production, you can transfer to the national grid. So then what other electricity board කියලා save කරලා තියන්න බෑ මොකද store කරලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් දන්නේ. So we are not doing that. Once you are producing, we can supply to the national grid, right? So then that's called sending the national grid. We don't have inventory. So then we are having this turbine and whatever the equipment to generate power, and those are PP&E. So whatever the repairing type of these items are there. So those can be classified as kind of inventory. Other than that, we don't have a significant inventory balance in power generation industry. And other thing is power generation by using hydropower and the wind power. Right? If you are generating power by using like biogas, you may have inventory material. Then for biogas, what you have to do? You have to use some types of biological inputs. After getting those things, inventory. Right? So then inventory is a very crucial balance. One of the damn inventory. I think the things are not a material, work in progress, and finished good. So those are the types we have. I'm a company in home the other. I'm a company in finished goods with the right. Retail company, the supermarket again, finished goods with the right. Material company, material කියන්නේ company එකේ output එක නම් finished goods නේ. Output එකක් දෙන හැම company එකම yes material විතරක් දෙන company නැතුව. And WIP the companies there. If you have a manufacturing process, you may have WIP. Some of the companies, they are having manufacturing process, but they don't have WIP. Why? What's the reason? They have a manufacturing process set up here, but they don't have WIP. Working progress. Working progress means that so that item may be in the half of the production process. So some of the companies, they do have manufacturing process, but they don't have WIP. They are manufacturing process. They process it in mark body, maybe kind of a 2-3 hours. So within a day, all are finished goods. Within another 2-3 hours, that become finished goods. Let's say yogurt. To produce a yogurt, it will take around 2-3 hours. Then we can take a yogurt. So then, at the end of a month, once you are taking your stock verification, you don't have WIP because your production process may be very easy. Let's say buy raha. Buy raha again meat wala packet kala dena meat. Or packet kala dena meat wala nada WIP එකක් නෑ. But the birds la එනවා within 1 hour වගේ packet වෙලා යනවා. There's no WIP. Production process is very small. We don't worry about the WIP, right? So then once you are having a case study, then by the one of the about if they cut head, is anything other than the power? After accounting terms, anything other than that. අලතුරු වටේ කතාව තමයි ඒක. අලතුරු වටේ පූජා කරනවා නේ අපි. ඉතින් මම කවුරුහරි අලතුරු වටේ පූජා කරනවා. දෙවියෝ කියලා જાතිය. අලතුරු වටේ පූජා කරනවා. ඒක හොඳ ඇන්ගල් එකකින් අන්ඩර්ස්ටෑන්ඩ් කරන්න ඕනේ. ටිකි හෝල්ඩර්ස් වලින්. What's the point? Are they doing a business? Especially if you are in a commerce stream, if you are reading from commerce degree, I don't think that you are expecting about something from Pujavati or something like that, right? එන්නේ ජීවිතේ. අලතුටින් ගන්න පුළුවන් එච්චරයි. ඒකේ අවුට්ඩේට් the failure. You have to be very nationalistic once you are taking decisions. Skepticism can be used. Questioning mind. Yourself, you can question yourself what you are going to do and what's the expectation. Are we going to do right thing? Okay? That's very important. Then, whatever the production you are expecting, there should be a process. And if there's a short process, you don't have WIP. Right? And then what else you want to learn about this nature of this asset? This is the account, it's a different account. Right? We are having assets. Example, cash, debtors, right? PP&E. But this is a bit different asset, right? You know that grade 2 onwards, you have this adjustment for inventory under the trial balance, right? Under the trial balance, we have adjustment for inventory now. Through the year-end stock verification, it clearly says, as per the year-end stock verification, the stock is. So then, I had a question like, 15 years back, 13 years back, why is that giving this type of adjustment in every time? And then other accounts, we are keeping accounts for this opening balance onward, we are keeping that account balance, right? We have opening balance, cash, opening balance, debit cash receipt, credit cash payment. Right? So if we are having a PP&E, what are you going to do? PP&E, whatever the addition, debit, disposal, credit. We have the imbalance. Let us also say we can get the imbalance. But we have opening inventory, but we are not putting purchase to that account. And we are doing stock verification. We don't have continuing account for inventory. As I said, we don't have. What's the reason? Because they are learning. So inhibition එක තියෙනවානේ පොඩි. ඇයි මේ තියෙන්නේ? ඔබට බැලන්ස් එක තියෙනවා. year end එක ඇලෙන් කරනවා. purchases වෙනවා තියෙනවා. ටයිම් එකක් තියෙනවා. අපිට asset inventory account එකට GL break අපිට දුන්නාම අපිට දෙනවද මේ debit credit එකේ GL break up වෙලා cash එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් debit credit. මේක නෑ එක. inventory sale account එකට profit account එකට pass වෙන්නේ නෑ. අපිට දැන් cash account bank wise තියෙනවා. ඒකේ debit credit තියෙනවා. අපි හිතන්නේ inventory type ABCD කියලා දෙනවලු. A inventory account එකේ balance එක debit credit ගන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒක බැරි. මොකද නැත්තේ. balance එකක් තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැති account එක audit කරන්නේ. What's the answer? Why we are not having this type of thing? I have 10 current පුළුවන්. We have opening inventory balance, purchases, cash, credit, debit to this account, sales, credit, debit to sales account, cash account, returns we can put here, and sales returns we can put on the side, so we can keep that account. Why we are not doing this? ඉතන තියෙනවා. එහෙම කරන්න පුළුවන්. කරන්න බෑනේ. ඒක what done? Nothing there. Then we can't do that. Why? So then we are dealing with inventory. That is the core business of the company, and we are dealing with two different prices. Different prices. In other words, we know that the account we are preparing to calculate the gross profit, but that trade account. Trade account is not gross profit making. Mama කිව්ව trade account එක කියන්න තව නමක් inventory account එක කියලා හිතුවා. Trade account එක කියලා හදන්න inventory account එක කිව්වොත් ඒක වෙනවා. ඔය වෙන්නේ trade account එක කියලා හදන්නවා in other word inventory account එක. Trade account එක මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? Opening balance, purchases, returns, design sale, and then returns. Net balance is the gross profit. Is another inventory account because inventory related all transaction we are keeping in different accounts. And end of the day, we accumulate it and we are calculating the gross profit. So the why we are not keeping it as one account. So first day onward, we can do that because we are dealing with two different prices. So then here, purchases and opening balances are in cost, but sales and sales return are in sale price. So whatever the purchase things, we add in the margin and we are selling. So if we are putting both to one account, all these margins and the cost may be mixed. So that's why we are keeping different accounts and summarize in the trade account at the end of the year. Because of not having kind of a transaction thread, debit credit balances, we supposed to do a year-end stock verification. Through year-end stock verification, we are getting the year-end balance. So now we have the opening balance, purchases and everything, sales and everything with the year-end inventory balance, and then we are getting the other outcome. What is that? Gross profit. That's the main reason for inventory to not have a continuous debit credit account. But as a company, you should have an inventory register to maintain your inventory. Right? So then what are the in and out inventory register? That should be tallied with the year-end inventory count. So then you have to evaluate your inventory aging and inventory in and out, everything should be evaluated. So then those are the basic natures of the inventory balance. And as we discussed, inventory should be recorded by using case 2. It says inventory should be recorded by using NRV and NRV first or first and NRV, whichever is lower. I told you that why we are telling that first and NRV, right? First, we can't say that first or NRV. That should be first and NRV, whichever is lower. That's the guideline. I'm not going to repeat myself, right? Okay, so that's the treatment. And then the inventory is an asset. We are having different accessions, the existence, completeness, and then valuation may be the risky accession, right? The completeness, whether we have captured all the inventory items relevant for this particular year. That's a very crucial part. Why? Some of the inventory items physically available, some are not. Why? Some of the items we have already purchased, those are good in transit. Some of the items at the sellers' warehouses, some of the items at the port, at the airport, right? So then already purchased. that should be considered as our inventory. Some of them are physically available, but bill and hold. Already we have sold. Customer has requested another 3-4 days to arrange their transportation. Are we going to capture that for our inventory? No, we can't do that. It's a completeness issue. So then we have to identify what are the inventory items relevant for this organization for this period. That's the difficult part, right? So then physical inventory verification is a very crucial task as auditor. So the physical verification of inventory as a task, we can say that, but the way we are doing is totally different. The way we are counting, ice cream differs with the garments, differs with the petroleum corporation, differs with the yogurt manufacturing company. And it will totally differs with the hotel company. As a hotel company, what are the inventory we have? Food and beverage inventory. And under food and beverage, we have one liquor stock is a very significant amount. And once you are getting liquor stock, whatever the bottles halfly used should be valued. So twice you have to value, right? Expensive liquors are there. So then you have to value. So then once you are doing hotel audit, how you are going to do bar, this mini bar how? Mini bar, you know that? In a hotel room, so we have a mini bar in the hotel room, right? So the mini bar is stock taker, gun owner the nether, gun owner. Guest can never tell us the high. So then is checking in like 25th, right? 25th till January 5th, right? So then that's part here, then year in the gar. Yeah, tell you the after bar counter again in the canteen. එයා ටේක් අවුට් කරලා අපි ස්ටොක් අවුට් ගන්නවා කියලා ගන්න ඕන. කොහොමද කරන්න ඕන? දැන් එතන ඉම්පැක්ට් එකක් තියෙනවා. එයා දැන් මේ දවස් පහේ යූස් කරලා ඇති. ඒ යූස් කරපු ටික sales. You have to bill the receivable from the guest. Still not settle the invoice, but the remaining inventory items in the minibar should be captured to the inventory. So then how are you going to get minibar count? That should be designed according to the protocols in that particular hotel. Whether we are not can go inside and check the minibar, that may be one approach. If we can identify a point that guest is not occupied in the room, if we can go inside and get the approval from him, if we can do the count, that may be reasonable. Otherwise, if we don't have any alternative method, we need to do kind of a average estimate counting. So subsequent testing. අපි පස්වෙනි දවස් වෙනකන් ඉඳලා බලනවා average කරලා කොහොමද usage එක. ඒ කියන්නේ පස්වෙනි දවස් වෙනකන් ඉඳලා මිනිබා එකේ මුකුත් පාවිච්චි කරලා නැත්නම් sorry 10 වෙනි දවස් වෙනකන් ඉඳලා මිනිබා එකේ මුකුත් පාවිච්චි කරලා නැත්නම් වාට කියන්න පුළුවන් පස්වෙනි දවස් මුකුත් පාවිච්චි කරලා නැහැ කියන්නේ. පුළුවන්. Within 10 days, you can buy chicken and that. Passing the answer, you can buy chicken and appears. Within 10 days, they are buying chicken with the decline. What you can put on in average, more 5 days, pick up buying chicken again. Another 5 days, they are going to pull on. So then, from total inventory, you are deducting one and consider for inventory count. That's reasonable. So this type of mechanism should be considered once you are doing inventory verification as an auditor. So I hope you have a proper understanding about inventory now as a nature. I'm still not covered the audit procedures, right? By nature, you should study that. So that there may be different inventory items. Accordingly, as auditor, you have to plan your audit procedures. Basically, it is ongoing company. Recommendation is you have to use reliable control approach for inventory. Why? It's a ongoing balance. There may be millions of transactions related to inventory, right? reliable control approach is the recommended approach. So then you have to test the control plus substantive procedures should be performed. So then detailed procedures with substantive procedures will be discussed in the next lecture. So then I hope that people who are joining virtually, you are okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, okay.
Right. So then,
sir, another question, sir. Sir, so අපිට මේ කියලා දෙන අතර රීටේල් එකක buy and sell company එක inventory එකක් ඊට පස්සේ hotel එක inventory එකක් manufacturing plant එක inventory එකක් audit කරන්න ඕන විදිය වෙනස්.
ඔව්.
ඒක අපේ මේකේ සර් next lecture එකේ අපිට කියලා දෙනවා සර්.
ඔව් කියලා දෙනවා. ඒක තමයි කියලා දෙන්න හදන්නේ. අද කියලා දුන්නේ මොනවද මේකේ nature එක කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි දැන් finance PPN එක කතා කරා වගේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ item ඒ කියන්නේ so the nature of the inventory balance we discussed. So next step we are going to discuss the audit approach and specific audit procedures, how we can going to customize each and every company, right?
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Other than that, anything you need to ask, better you can challenge it, right? We discussed a lot today. Just we covered intangible asset and non-current asset, but we had detailed discussion about goodwill, tangible asset, PP&E, and then other balances as well. Hope you are okay with the presentation. You can easily complete the other balances, and then we can move to execution, and we can complete the syllabus. Now we are doing the execution, right? The hard part completed, what planning and risk assessment. This is kind of a continuous process. Daily we are covering some balances. So at the end of the day, so the final lecture we are covering some disclosures. Then again disclosures related to these balances. Then again, right? So we can easily cover. So then we are covering all the audit execution. Then we are going to audit conclusion. How we are going to issue the audit report, what's the impact, and are going to qualify, adverse. So that is the process. I think you are in the process then. Thought process should be linked where you are, what you are doing, how you are going to finish the syllabus. That track should be on your head. Otherwise, if you are, full confusion, මට කතා කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ යාළුවෙක්ට කතා කරන්න ඕනවට ටිකක් කියලා දෙන්න නැත්නම් YouTube ගිහලා ලින්ක් එකක් අහන්න ඒකත් ඔප්ෂන් එකක් end of the day you have to learn this subject right before the exam that's the request so I am available here to help in different modes you can come up answer the questions and clarifications and arguments then you can learn so my request is get maximum out of this. Otherwise, we have paid for here, and we are not getting something. That's it. So with that note, I'm going to wind up for today. We'll pick up with another lecture next week. I hope your positive participation, right? I will try to submit another assignment today. So the total assignment, including 20 questions. That different assignment. So then we can submit it in 1 day or 2 days. I'll do that. I'll decide that according to the content. So then I want to again want a hard time good thing, right? So then we have to on track and we need to think about what are the learning outcomes. So then all the questions spread out all the areas will help you to do kind of self-evaluation whether you know that or not. Right? So then if you are struggling, talk to your friends. The better PF in the then අනිත් ක්ලාස් එක 50 කට අඩු ගානක් තමයි හරියට තේරෙනවා කියන්නේ. ඒක කට්ටිය ඉතින් අන්න පහක් හතරක් තේරෙනවා මොකදේනවා ඉන්නේ මට. ඒක තේරෙනවා වගේ කට්ටිය ඔඩියන්ස් එකේ. කියන්නේ මේ expressions කියනවා ටිකක් තේරෙනවා කියලා something right. Then talk to your colleague. It's lateral in the bar. Then you can learn. You can change your skills and you have to learn this art. So then be a accountant, he may be the art, be a auditor may be the artist, right? You can be auditors, you can be the artist. So then with that all, we are going to wind up today. Thank you very much. On the slide deck. These days I am preparing a detailed slide deck for the webinars. I can share with you all as a kind of supporting. Because now I'm going to do actual. Then make investment investment take a tactical. Again, they will get actual. I can share that as well. That's why I'm getting late. So I'll share that as well. So I become a bit out the naked gap panelists. It's not a requirement. So whatever the learning source, get it, read it, go to the standard, read it, and anyhow, the concept with the knowledge. Take a pote balaki and learning. Focus on knowledgeable, professional, whatever the forum, what පොඩක් කතා කරගෙන ඉස්සරහට යන්න පුළුවන් වෙන මේ ටොපික් එක ගැන. ඒක තමයි අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ. කියන්නේ what is standard එක මම කිව්වාගේ සම්පූර්ණ ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක දැනගන්න ඕනේ කියනවා. But the basic stuff, so then at least you have to tell that there's a standard like this. So then that definitely that will cover. So then I will read and come back with a solution. So then there may be a kind of a treatment on that standard. So that discussion should be done from yourself as a counselor, right? To do that, you should know at least there is a standard related to this area. So that's the request from yours. Be equipped with that. Otherwise, taking a degree, counting degree, the same to you as well as to us, as well as to the organization. Once certificate brand, एक ambassador के लिए पेन हो, degree डाला यहाँ. So that's the requirement. That's why we are keeping lectures clear and giving some support for you all. So with these lectures, you can start your learning journey, right? That's it.